Welcome back. And now we come to one of the more exciting parts about our backdoor, and that is the ability of the backdoor to take screenshots of the target's desktop. So for this, we're going to need to use an additional library which we're going to import later on. But first thing, let's start with the part of the code of our server. So as usual, for each and every function and each and every option of our backdoor, we're going to add an else if statement. So else if the command and first 10 characters, because screenshot has 10 letters, if they are equal to the screenshot, then what we want to do is, believe it or not, is the same thing that we did with download file function. So let's go to the download file function, copy it entirely, and paste it right here. Now before we change the things that we need to change, let me explain this. The reason why we're using the same part of the code is because really the only thing that our server is doing is downloading an image from the target machine. The target machine is the one that is going to take the screenshot, and there the code will differentiate. But here, from our server, we only want to download an image, therefore we use the same code as we use for the download file option. But there are certain things that we need to change right here. First of all, this file name does not exist, and we need to make sure that we can capture multiple images and not name it the same way. So how can we do that? Well, we can add something like this. We can call it screenshot, and we can add %d. This %d will be switched with the count variable. Now you might be asking, well, we don't even have a count variable. Well, we're going to define it at the beginning of our function. So at the beginning of target communication, set count to be equal to 0. What this will do is the first time that we actually take screenshot, it will save it as screenshot 0. Then if we try to take the screenshot a second time, it will save it as screenshot 1, and so on and so on. But in order for it to do that, at the end of this screenshot part of the program, we need to increase the count variable by 1. Alright? And one more thing that we're going to do is we're going to increase the timeout from 1 second to 3 seconds. And that is the best time that I use for the screenshot part of the code. We're setting it to be longer just to make sure that our program doesn't fail. Okay? Everything else can remain the same. There is nothing really to change about this. We can proceed to the part of the code of our backdoor. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, we need to import an additional library which is going to be called PyAutoGUI. Okay? This is the library that we're going to use in order to capture the screenshot. So just we don't have this red underline, let's install it using our pip, even though we're not going to compile it and run it inside our Kali Linux. But let's just install it so we don't get these random errors just because we don't have the library inside of our virtual environment. Okay, so it will take some time to install. Seems like it is a large library, therefore we are going to wait for it to finish. And now let's code the part that will take the screenshot. Okay, so let's go all the way down and let's add the else if statement. So else if command first 10 characters are equal to screenshot. Then what we want to do is we will call the screenshot function that we're going to code in just a few seconds. And after it, we want to upload the file, which will be called screen. Let's just call it screen. And since this will take a PNG screenshot, let's call it screen.png. Okay, before we continue with the rest of the code from this else if statement, let's create the screenshot function. We can do it right here below the upload file. So let's define it first, define screenshot. And this function has only 2 lines of code, which we are going to write like this. So let's create a variable called myScreenshot, and it will be equal to PyAutoGUI dot screenshot. And that is actually all we need to do to take a screenshot, the rest of the code is actually saving that screenshot with a name that we want, so my screenshot.save, and we will save it with the same name that we specified below, which is screen.png. As you can see right here, we save the screenshot under the name screen.png, and in our else if statement, right after we take the screenshot, we use the upload file function in order to send that image, and right after it, we want to delete that image. Now the reason why we are deleting that image, so that our target doesn't really notice an image of their own desktop. Okay, so we will os.remove, and we will remove screen.png. Okay, so this should be everything that we need to do. We are using the remove function from the OS library to remove a file, in our case the screenshot, and right now we can test this program and see whether this works. Okay, so let's import our USB drive, open up our USB drive on Kali Linux, and then copy backdoor to the /media/root and then the USB drive. Unplug the USB drive, and I know that this process is getting repetitive, but we have to do this after every video so we can test each and every function of our backdoor. Let's go right here, open up the USB drive, copy the backdoor, and before we actually compile it this time, remember that we have a library that we do not have installed. Therefore, we need to pip3 install PyAutoGUI. Press here enter. It will install the library for us. In my case, the requirement is already satisfied. For you, it will install the library, and after it, we can compile the program. PyInstaller backdoor.py --one file --no console. Let's run our server in our Kali Linux machine. Open up the terminal, clear the screen, Python 3 server.py. Listening for the incoming connections. The compiling of the program finished, and now we can run it. Let's run it from the disk directory, so double click. We get no error, so everything seems to work correctly. And right now, let's try the screenshot command. If I type screenshot, it will take a second or two. If I type who am I, we can execute the commands right after it, and if I go to my directory right here, we get screenshot 0 inside of our PyCharm directory. Now let's double click on the screenshot 0, and it seems that it didn't save it as the PNG, and that could be because right here inside of our server we can add .png, or we can simply just go like this to the home, then to the PyCharm projects backdoor, and we can open the image ourselves. Okay, so here it is. We opened the screenshot, and it managed to take the screenshot of the target's desktop. Now, the reason why we are seeing Kali Linux is because the Kali Linux is being ran on the target's desktop, therefore we see Kali Linux. If I lower this screen, let's enlarge this just so I can open the PyCharm, and I type screenshot once again. Let's take a look right now. We want to see whether the previous one was overwritten and also whether it took the second screenshot. As we can see, there is screenshot 0, which is still there. It is not being overwritten, and there is screenshot 1. And here is the second screenshot that we managed to take on target's desktop. So our function works really well. Great. Now what we're left to do is we're left to implement the keylogger in next video, and also after it we need to implement the persistence, and our backdoor is officially finished. So without further ado, let's get straight into implementing keylogger in the next video. See you there. Bye.